Hi guys, welcome back to the desktop for another rules breakdown, and this time I'm going to do the 1991 role-playing game Millennium's End by Chameleon Eclectic. Now, it's a long forgotten and maligned game which doesn't receive anywhere near the attention it deserves because it has a number of great features. So we'll run quickly through the rules and hopefully I'll display some of the more interesting parts of the game to you. So Millennium's End is a system which uses only d10s. So at the moment I just need a couple of percentile. So we've got our tens and our units, and we'll turn to a example character they've got in the book. Now, what characters have are groups of skills. So we've got academic skills, creative skills, tech skills, medical skills, natural skills, physical skills, scientific skills, and social skills. And under those, they've got the individual skills. So under the social skills here, we've got diplomacy. And then under those, we've got sub-skills. When you get to a certain level, you can get sub-skills. So she's got prying of 20. So this character, if she's trying to pry on something, she's rolling up against a percentile of 20 plus 40 plus 4, so 64. So she's rolling her percentile dice against a target of 64, because we've added the three of those together. Obviously, the Games Master can introduce advantages and disadvantages for situational things, but mainly it's percentile based, so she rolls and she gets a 45, so she's rolled under a 64, so she succeeds if she's trying to pry. If she was just trying ordinary diplomacy, she'd be rolling against a 44, because she wouldn't be getting the 20 points from her prying. She'd just be getting her diplomacy plus her social skills, and it would have been a 44, and she would have failed. And that's as simple as it is. Percentile against skills from the group, the skill, and then the sub-skill if you've got one. Now, unfortunately for initiative, the character sheet lets us down a little because it doesn't actually have all the relevant information. Because initiative is worked out based on your base speed minus your weapon speed plus a d10. So let's say this character is using her HK MP5. Well, we have to look it up. Fortunately, I've flipped through the book and I've put my finger in. And we have HK MP5, a speed of 13. So we take 13 for the MP5 away from her speed, which is 20, and we get 7. And then we roll a d10. We get an 8. So she goes in 15. And that's as simple as initiative is. It's your base speed minus your weapon speed plus a d10. Whoever gets the highest goes first. Now, combat is one of the more interesting elements. Basically, it's a percentile based. So we look at this character and she has her MP5 skill calculated out here as 70. We've got the different parts of it down here. And the weapon has an inherent accuracy of 19. So we add those together, and with other modifiers, it comes out that she needs to roll an 86. So we roll. And we get a 23. So she has hit the target. However, if she missed, where the bullet wandered to would depend on a couple of charts, because she still stands a chance of hitting. So we look here, and we've got various stances. The Games Master selects how the target is standing. So we've got somebody who's lay prone, or we've got somebody who's standing up here. So let's say she's shooting at someone prone, and she missed the roll by 5. Well, we've got these as well. So she is shooting at point blank. So we target the 0 on there. So if she made the roll, she would have hit exactly where she intended. Now you can move that round. So if you're trying to shoot them in the top of the head, you would target the 0 there. But generic, it goes into the center, onto the cross on the figure. And then we said she'd failed by 5, I believe I said. So she would hit them in the arm location 12. The bullet strayed. Now, to add some variety, you're asked to sort of rotate the chart. So not always the numbers hit on the same location. But that's basically how it works. You put these clear overlays over a picture of the target, and depending on how far out of the roll, so if you missed your target by 28, the bullet would have gone way over here and wouldn't have stood a chance of hitting any target. But if you're just failing by a small amount, then the bullet can still hit the target, just in a different location to where you intended to shoot. And of course, there's chance for swinging, so if you're trying to punch somebody and you miss, then you target somewhere else. Your fist flails wildly. And you've got range, so as you stand a worse and worse chance of hitting, you've got charts, or overlays for higher numbers. But that's how it works. You roll to hit. If you hit the way you intended to shoot. If you miss, you roll to see where the bullet scattered to. Now we're on to damage, and that's where Millennium's End gets quite complex. So you'll pardon me if I start and stop this video a few times, as I try and cover everything. So first of all, we've determined that the target's been hit in the arm. And there's various other target profiles here. There's even a dog if you want to shoot a dog. But flicking back to the character sheet. Now we said the character was shooting her HK MP5, and that has a damage factor of 17. Now, looking at the armor on her arm, because we're using her to shoot herself, as we often do in these demonstrations, she has arm armor of 7. So her damage factor has gone from 17 down to 10. Now, also, the CN of her armor in the shoulder is 6. So that is more than half of what remains. So instead of it being penetrating damage, the armor has now turned that into impact damage. Okay, so now we need to turn to the damage tables. So we have damage 10 and it's impact damage. So we can see that on there, it's done 10 levels of impairment. Now, following the impairment down to upper arms, we can see that the impairment effects are just in activities for the arm. So for any activities using the arm because she's been shot there, she now loses 10 points to her skill, and she's impaired by those. Any other skill rolls for running, for thinking, aren't affected at all. It's just anything using her arm. So if she'd been shot in the head, all her skills would have been impaired. If she'd been shot in the torso, all physical skills would have been impaired. Looking back up at the damage, we can see that she'd taken impact because her armor took it down to that by being more than half of the remaining damage. But if it had gone straight through her armor, if her armor hadn't taken it, instead of taking 10, she'd have taken 25. Because hydrostatic shock is the effects for bullets. So you can see bullets are far more lethal than ordinary damage. Now we have to determine stun. So looking on the column for impact damage is 10, but it's impact damage, so it has a stun modifier of +4. So we're actually increasing this up to column 14 for stun damage. And looking down for the upper arm where she was shot, we can see that she has to make a stun roll with a +60 modifier. And looking back at the character, we see she has a constitution of 55, so she cannot fail. So she's not going to take any stun. And next up, we've got blood loss. So we've got the blood loss here. Impact is -5. So we're taking column 10, we're going down 5, looking down, and there is no blood loss for that. So she's not taking any blood loss. If she'd been, we would calculate out how long the blood loss would be spread over, and each period she would lose 1 blood point. When she loses blood points, she goes into shock. She has to make another stun test. She goes into shock, which suffers from all physical impairment of 10 and a mental impairment of 30. When she loses a second, she gets another stun. The third, another stun, and on a fourth she bleeds out. So it's possible to die from wounds if they're not treated of higher levels. But for the wound we've dealt with, getting shot in the arm, there was actually no blood loss at all from the impact damage going through her armor. A couple of other things worth mentioning about the trauma levels here is we've got Bs, and if on the column where you're getting shot, it leads to a broken bone. So on column 10, if you'd taken 12 damage, it would break the bone and you get a broken arm. And we've also got instantly fatal. So if there's an I on the damage table, I'm trying to find an I, there's one. So if you're shot in the face at level 20, you are instantly dead. Otherwise, if damage is actually over 25, you also get killed by the massive amount of damage. Now, rather than hit points or anything, the damage and health in Millennium's End is dealt with the penalties you've received from your wounds. Obviously, you've been shot in the arms, your arm's not working, you've been shot in the leg, you're not running as fast, and those penalties accumulate. And as long as you've not died, these will heal up. Now, each level has a heal rate. So a level 10 wound will heal up to level 9 in 42 hours. Then 36 hours later, it'll heal up to 8, and so on and so forth until you're completely healed. It must be worth noting that if you've broken a bone, then these numbers are multiplied by 4. So that would be, 168 hours to drop to level 9, and so on, for the broken bone to heal up. But that's how health is dealt with. You take the damage and impairment from the wounds, and then you heal up very slowly, probably in between adventures. Now, character advancement in Millennium's End is kind of like Call of Cthulhu, but a little bit different. If we flick over here, we can see on page 58 we've got character improvement. Anytime a player rolls a dice against a skill level, his character is entitled to experience. Experience is measured in uses. A use is gained every time a character makes a roll, up to a limit of 3 uses per skill or subskill per adventure. Whenever a certain amount of uses are gained, the skill level goes up. Anytime a skill roll is made, a character is granted 1 use in that skill. The use is applied to the lowest order of the skill possibly, usually the subskill. Remember, however, that subskill may never exceed 1/2 its skill level. So looking back here, we can see, let's say we were going back to this diplomacy roll, that if she succeeds, she gets 1 use. So her prying skill gets a chance of going up. However, her prying skill is already half of her diplomacy, so can't go up. So her diplomacy would go up instead. Skills and subskills are increased at the following rate. For levels 1 through 25, 1 use will increase the skill by 1 level. For levels 26 through 40, 2 uses are required to raise the skill by 1 level. 3 are required for levels 41 through 45. So we can see here that her skill's at 40, so she marks off her skill use. And when she gets a second one, the diplomacy skill will go up to 41. And 2 more uses, it'll go up to 42. And then 1 use after that, her skill's at 20, so the prying will go up to 21. So the lower level prying skill goes up much quicker. The higher diplomacy skill, however, must be double what the prying is. And that's how advancement works. You improve your character by doing. It's not a random roll at the end of the adventure, it's during play. You actually get the skill uses and you can improve your skill. Now, remembering, of course, that the limit is 3 uses of per skill or subskill per adventure for advancement. So you can only get 3 advancement points for a skill in each adventure. And that's a brief rundown of the rules of Millennium's End, or at least the first edition version of the game. It's a really nice game with some interesting concepts. The targeting the locations so you can actually hit even if you miss your skill roll is very interesting. The advancement as you play is a very cool concept indeed. And I absolutely adore the setting. I have to criticize the art in the rulebook. The first edition does look pretty bad. I'm not quite sure what that stance is supposed to be. And I have to admit that I think that the character here kind of looks like a female Donald Trump. She's got a horrible expression on her face, and she's standing very hips back in a Donald Trump-like fashion. But perhaps that's just me. Perhaps I haven't slept enough. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe, as you'll be doing me an absolutely massive favor with the YouTube algorithm if you do. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.